This will be our modeling natural selection activity that we do. I'm going to kind of read through this, work through the introductory questions, and you are certainly welcome to follow along and highlight kind of as I do. You will receive a paper handout of this that you can kind of work with. It's exactly the same as what I have on my screen. Our guiding question, what we're trying to look at, is how allele frequencies, genotypic ratios, and phenotypic ratios, how do those three things support the theory of natural selection? So that's kind of what we're ultimately looking for, and that's what we're going to be measuring today. In this investigation, you'll be asked to calculate those three things, the allele frequencies, genotypic ratios, and phenotypic ratios. You're going to need to use those calculations to explain how natural selection occurs, and then also be able to explain how the environment plays a role in natural selection. So let's start by looking at our introduction, which goes along with this image, and our scenario, or our story of what we're going to be looking at. We'll then use that information to answer these pre-lab questions. Natural selection refers to how well an organism can survive in the environment it lives in. Natural selection, that is a vocab word, and that gives us the definition. So I'm going to highlight that on my paper. How well an organism can survive in its environment. In natural selection, the environment acts on phenotypes, or traits, of individuals in a population. Again, an example of a trait would be something like eye color, hair color, or height. And phenotype is another word for trait. Continuing on, those individuals who have phenotypes that allow them to survive better in an environment have a better chance to survive. This is known as fitness. Okay, so there's fitness. What is fitness? Fitness refers to right here, surviving better in their environment and having a better chance to survive. Certainly, some individuals will survive better than other individuals. Those that can survive better have high fitness. Those that cannot survive as well have low fitness. Here we have an example. For example, lions eat antelopes. Antelopes, who are faster runners, have a better chance of surviving an attack than slower runners. These survival advantages are not skills that the animal works for. They are advantages they have as a result of the genes in their DNA. Since these genes in the DNA, it makes sense that offspring of these individuals will inherit these genetic survival advantages, meaning they'll get them from their parents. Over the course of time, the genes that lead to advantageous phenotypes become more common in a population, and genes that lead to survival disadvantages become less common. The reason for this? Those that can survive are more likely to produce more offspring or children in their lifetime than those who struggle to survive. Makes sense. If you die young, probably not going to have many kids. If you live longer, there's a greater chance you'll have more kids than those that die young. This investigation will model how advantageous phenotypes, or phenotypes that help an animal live, become more common in a population, and how phenotypes that have survival disadvantages become less common. This picture shows the theory of natural selection and some of the things that fall into it. We see overproduction, variation, selection, and adaptation. Let's start with overproduction. Every species tends to produce more individuals than can survive to maturity. So overproduction essentially means that there are too many animals. Variation. The individuals of a population that have many characteristics that differ. So here we see dark brown, light brown. Same trait, which is fur color, but the variation is different. Light and dark, two different types of color. Number 3, selection. Some individuals survive longer and reproduce more than others do. So it looks like these ones here survived longer than the ones that died, which are laying on the ground. As a result, they're going to have more kids. And notice that there's more dark brown than light brown. And as a result, the population becomes darker in color. There's more dark brown individuals because there's more dark brown individuals which can pass on those traits to the future generation. And lastly, number 4, adaptation. The traits of those individuals that survive and reproduce will become more common in a population. Let's look at the scenario. What is the story we're looking at? We will be observing changes in allele frequency, genotypic ratios, and phenotypic ratios within a population of 50 mice, some white and some brown, who happen to live in a brown, sandy environment. So the environment is brown and it's sandy. Brown fur is dominant over white fur. And these mice are food for sources for hawks who live nearby. So it looks like there's a predator, there's the hawks eat the mice. To represent the alleles for brown and white fur, we will be using spray painted beans. Pink beans will represent the dominant allele, which is brown fur, and green beads will represent the recessive allele, white fur. We will be using a die is singular for dice, to determine if the mice we create will live or die. If you pull a white mouse, it will die if you roll a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If you pull a brown mouse, it will die only if you roll a 1. So let's look at these questions, pre-lab questions. Number 1, what is natural selection? We can go up here, we can see natural selection. What is it? It refers to how well an organism can survive in the environment it lives in. So there's our answer. Let's check out number 2. What is meant by the term fitness? Fitness, that was up here, we talked about that as well, I highlighted it. Fitness, survive better in an environment, have a better chance to survive. So we can put that down here. Organisms can Looking at number 3, in the image we are told that overproduction, we saw overproduction right here, leads to natural selection. What does overproduction cause populations of organisms to do? So we have to think of what we spoke of when we were looking at food webs way back in August. So let's break this down. Overproduction means that there are too many animals. If there are too many animals means that there is not enough food for all animals. And if there's not enough food for all animals, the animals have to go through competition. Competition means that they have to fight for food. So that's what we're looking at with overproduction. Number 4, what trait will we be observing in mice in this investigation? Well, we see that we're looking at white fur and we're looking at brown fur. White and brown are not traits. White and brown are variations. What we're going to be looking at is the color of the fur. And number 5 is a build off of number 4. What are the two variations of this trait? Well, we have fur, we have brown, we have white. Number 6. Would we expect brown or white mice to have a higher level of fitness? Okay, let's look at the term fitness again. Fitness. Organisms who can survive better in their environment have a better chance to produce more offspring and live longer than those who cannot survive as well. So we have to kind of think, which one of these mice, brown or white, can survive better in the environment? Well, let's take a look at the environment. What does this environment look like? The environment is brown and sandy. So which mouse do we think will live better in a brown sandy environment? Brown mice or white mice? Well, considering that there is a predator, hawks eat mice, I would suspect the brown mouse to live better. So they will have a higher level of fitness because they can blend in with the brown sandy environment. Last two questions. Number 7, what will a pink bean represent? Let's see here. Pink beans right there, they will represent the dominant allele. And the dominant allele, it looks like, is brown fur. And our last one, number 8, what will a green bean represent? Green, let's see, where is green? The green ones, there we go, will represent the recessive allele, which was white fur. Once you have that completed, check out this video. It will show you how to use the data tables that we'll be needing to use shortly.